very welcome. As you know, he's the Minister for Small Business, but I'll introduce him briefly. He was elected to the seat of Riverina in 2010. He became Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister for Finance, and now, of course, he's the Minister for Small Business. His background is in journalism and as a reporter. He's also written some booklets and pamphlets on matters from bush rangers in his area to sporting figures in his area. And the Minister was saying briefly that before that he's only the second Federal Minister from Riverina. So it's great to have Michael McCormack here tonight, and the topic is Australia, a small business success. Minister, thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, Gerard, and acknowledge my state parliamentary colleague, Jenny Atchison, and all of you for coming out this evening. Very much appreciate a big audience, and I know it'll be an enthusiastic audience later when we do a bit of Q&A. I look forward to that. Look, every single morning, almost 1 in 2 Australians goes to work in a small business. Every morning, the wages of 5.6 million of us are paid, and our communities are served by 3.2 million small businesses. So every time Australia's economic indicators show more people in work, as they've done today, more growth in our economy, or even more choice on our supermarket shelves, the sector doing the heavy lifting is always the same: small business. Australia is a story of small business success. So tonight I'm going to share with you that story of hard work and determination. The story of new ideas, new ventures. The story of economic success. Tonight I'll share with you the story of small business and why the Liberals, Nationals in government, federal government, see small business as sacrosanct. I'm sure they did the same in New South Wales too. And why it's our values which always have your back. For the government, it starts with injecting confidence. For a business to pursue a new idea, to hire another Australian or give someone else a go, takes a fair degree of courage. It's the belief that the service you offer will be something that consumers want. The belief that the person you hire will help your business grow and that your work can fund the wage of that person. The belief that the economy is in need of more people like you pursuing their idea. So as a government, it's our role to respect that. Our role is to respect you. It's our role to applaud those Australians for whom the challenge of starting a new small business is equally entwined with the excitement of opportunity. And there's a lot of excitement in starting a new small business. It's our job, the federal government's job, to make that job easier, to make your job easier. When we can do that successfully, small business people can create jobs. Wages can grow in the economy. So too, a modernising workplace and marketplace can keep small business front and centre. But the challenge of this change and adaptation is vast. So small business needs people who share its passion, who understand its struggles, and who want to champion its success. And in the Liberals and the Nationals government in Canberra, it's the best friend small business has ever had. The Liberal and Nationals in government have made small business the front of its policy agenda since coming into government in 2013. We started from a low base, a clean slate if you will, after the chaotic years of Rudd-Gillard-Rudd. We hit the ground running. We introduced the $20,000 instant asset write-off. We reduced red tape by $5.8 billion a year. We implemented unfair contract legislation. We continue to engage small business in procurement jobs and pay them on time. That's important. We signed free trade agreements with China, with South Korea and Japan. We established the Australian Small Business and Family Enterprise Ombudsman. We changed the definition of what is a small business from $2 million to $10 million turnover for companies, or $2 million to $5 million for unincorporated businesses. We legislated small business taxes to fall to 25% over the decade for companies and a 15% reduction for unincorporated businesses. We've worked tirelessly with the Senate crossbench to achieve these reforms regardless of relentless Labor obstruction. I'm genuinely energised by what this government's been able to achieve for small business and by small business people themselves. Upon being appointed the Minister for Small Business, I committed to visit as many small businesses as I could. I have visited every state, and indeed I did that in the first 3 months of the job, and now in a little over a year I've visited more than 60 towns in electorates which are National, Liberal, Labor, Greens and Independent, to understand in explicit detail the conditions of the sector, to hear feedback. That's one of the most important jobs, if not the most important job of any politician, to hear feedback. More importantly, then to act on that feedback. I know the best ideas don't come from the bureaucracy. They don't even indeed come from politicians. They come from people at the coalface. They come from the people who have a stake in the sector, the people who have risked it all to follow their dream. Small businesses succeed by providing their goods and services in a manner which is more valuable than their competitors. They need to be proactive, agile and courageous, nimble, Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull would call it, and they need a government they can trust to back them to achieve their potential. Similarly, government, through policy, needs to create the certainty and the business conditions in Australia which are modern, dynamic, non-intrusive and supportive of the small business, demonstrating we are on their side, spurring them on to achieve their full potential. Tonight I want to convey to you my forward policy agenda for small business. Payment times is an issue that is raised time and again right across this nation. Over the past 6 months, analysis by Xero shows 65% of small business and medium enterprises have had invoices overdue by more than 30 days. 65%. And unsurprisingly, small and medium enterprises which experience late payments are 3 times more likely to go out of business than those which receive payment within 30 days. I'm reaching the final stages of preparing a response to the Australian Small Business and Family Enterprise Ombudsman's Payments Times Inquiry. And I can promise you I am not going to stand by while big business dictate unrealistic payment terms and times to small business on a take it or leave it basis. To me, this constitutes a breach of our unfair contract legislation, and I'm eager for the opportunity to throw the resources available to me to prove this in court. The federal government is already a model small business player and is a payer and is we're a player too, we do a lot of procurement. And it's attempting to influence big business into doing just the same. Project bank accounts, mirrored payment terms on government jobs and extending swift payment expectations to government agencies are very high on my agenda. I commend the Business Council of Australia for implementing its voluntary payment code, which sets the expectation of big business payment to small businesses within 30 days. That's good. It's a good start. However, don't for a second think I've discounted or ruled out legislating payment terms. Legislating payment terms. If behaviour does not change and the scant regard for small businesses isn't alleviated, all options will be on the table. But the voluntary code is a good start and I'll be monitoring it very closely. There are opportunities for small business today that shrink the world. We live in a global village, but it's ever shrinking. Small business have access to technology and distribution networks and markets never before experienced, never before imagined. We don't just surf online, we live online. It's my ambition that small business have access to the knowledge for them to be competitive overseas. It's my ambition that small business have access to the equipment for them to be competitive internationally. I will work closely with my Treasury colleagues as they finalise the inquiry into the black economy to see if there are opportunities to synchronise the crackdown on the black economy and transitioning small businesses of all shapes and sizes to embrace technology. Technology also has the potential to significantly shorten payment times and terms, in addition to the payment times inquiry I mentioned just a few moments ago. My party, the Nationals, are passionate about decentralisation. That's why the team, well led by Deputy Prime Minister Barnaby Joyce and Minister for Regional Development Senator Fiona Nash, are asking ministers to report on agencies within government which could work well outside of Canberra. That's why the team is working to bring jobs to places such as Wagga Wagga, my hometown, through the Rural Industries Research and Development Corporation and the Australian Pesticides and Veterinary Medicines Authority to Armidale, along with a number of others. Our Nationals team want to build on the legacy which moved the Australian Taxation Office to Albury, a little more than an hour's drive from my hometown, and that was in May 1976. Now, I'm just not long off the phone from the Albury Mayor, Kevin Mack, who tells me that in May 1976, on the corner of Olive and Swift Streets, the ATO opened its office, a manager and 8 staff. And now what is it today? 1,200 staff. 1,200 staff, and I hear your gasps. And Kevin Max, as the Mayor of Albury, is pretty proud of that. He should be. It boost to the local economy and the public service continues to this day. But there is a misconception the Nationals are solely about moving public servants to the regions. And Kevin wanted me to point out that we ought to move some of the corporations out too and provide incentives for them to do so, and we're doing just that. We're considering just that. Decentralisation is much bigger than this, much, much bigger. Moving government agencies out of the big capital cities to regional centres is just the pebble in the pool, the thing which starts the ripple from one little change expanding and growing. In my own region, corporate decentralisation from Mars and Albury-Wodonga has brought hundreds of jobs, just like the ATO, thousands of people and much in investment. The company has continued to grow and we have grown with it. In Wagga Wagga, our 3 defence bases, including the home of the soldier at Kapuka and RAF Base Wagga, has supported local families, local contractors and local futures for decades. This is a model from which Australia can build. Every new job in the country is a start for an Australian family. It's a new beginning for one of our communities and a new adventure for the Australian economy, and it's what our modern trading partners do too. Connectivity and synergy are not just buzzwords. It's not just part of a corporate prospectus on Pitt Street. It's the basis of the movement which is building our country and building resilience along with it. And there's no better example of resilience than in small business. And there's no better example of resilience than in regional Australia, let me tell you. I'm looking forward tonight to catching up with Craig Shapiro a little later tonight after this event. Craig is a financial services expert, a big end of town boy, and I don't think he'd mind me calling him that. He's one of the growing number of city investors looking to regional Australia as a viable, profitable exercise, and I heartily commend him for it. He is the CEO and the co-founder of the of the Blue River Group. Well, it will be an iconic company. They've actually just last year purchased what is an iconic company, and that is the Wagga Wagga Dairy Company, Riverina Fresh. 94 years strong, 94 years old, 94 years strong. What Blue River Group has done is transformed that iconic company, automating it, looking for new markets and investing, perhaps even more importantly, in new products, particularly in the yogurt range. I quite enjoy those, whilst keeping the same number of employees. So they've kept the jobs, they're expanding the company. His is a fantastic corporate decentralisation story, and we want to hear and see more of that. Now, sit in the pub on a Friday night in a town such as Grong, yes, such a town exists, in the Riverina region, you'll get some frank advice as the local MP, and I'm sure you get some brilliant frank advice. I'm sure you do, just like I do. And you'll meet the people who own that pub, Tad and Kay Obadinsky. They're good people. They've run the pub for a long while, and they've poured their heart and soul into making something that they can sell eventually, and they can happily retire. You might hear about Tad's VFL career. He was a full forward with South Melbourne in the 70s. It's now called the Sydney Swans in Sydney. Now, he played 2 games, no goals. He describes himself as the worst full forward in VFL history. He's a bit self-deprecating, my mate Tad, but a VFL career at the highest level nonetheless. It's 2 more games than most of us will ever play. In fact, my football career was 2 games with Hungary alongside Chris Danaher. I played 2 games, 2 kicks, 1 mark, 1 handball, 2 broken ribs, but that's another story. Now, if you're in the Royal Hotel at Grong, you might hear how the season's going, whether grain prices are good and what Kay has on for tea. Bangers and mash, that's my favourite, for the truckies who traverse the nation taking product from farm gate to dinner plate. But you'll also hear about jobs, local jobs, Australians' jobs, jobs in Wagga Wagga and surrounds, jobs worth travelling for, and jobs someone's done many, many miles away. You'll hear that more often than not. It's small business which provides those jobs. Jobs are the mainstay of small business in Australia. We all know that. It's something broader than a philosophical argument. It's more than an economic model. It's respecting that small businesses are the real drivers of jobs growth in Australia. Every single Australian, no matter their age, their postcode, their income, wants to see more Australians in work. A job is more than a number on a spreadsheet. It's more than an indicator to the market, and it's more than a figure for the future. A job is food on the table. It's bills paid on time. It's the dignity and respect that someone has the faith in you to deliver what that organisation needs, wants and expects. And for more Australians than not, that very dignity and respect is spurned, is inspired by small business, So this leads me into what I'm doing to help. As part of the Nationals in government, to help small business create more jobs and to have a go. It's easy in politics these days to get caught up in an echo chamber. I say this as a journalist with 21 years experience. The scale, the pace and intensity of rolling media cycles, of social media, of immediately ruling something in or ruling something out. You know, you've done it, we've all done it, we've all been questioned, we've all been, put on the spot, and that's fine. It's shifting the focus away from, some way from Tad and Kay and the fact that they're having a go in small business in a small country town. It's shifting those people we listen to away from those who've done it before to those who have a character limit. So for me, and life isn't in 140 characters, neither is small business. And so for me, the most important thing I value today, as I have every day I've been in Parliament, is to listen, to hear feedback. I courted some nationwide attention when I went to the Royal Hotel at Grong Grong a few years ago. I called into the Royal for tea, Kay's famous bangers and mash, and a great local OJ, as I often do. That's orange juice at the pub. Yes. It was Australia Day. Prince Philip just got a knighthood. And rather than the matter at hand, I really thought the focus was shifting away from the people we needed to listen to. And so I said so to the national media. I didn't get into politics to play games, to background, to seek promotion as a prize only unto itself and not to work hard. I got into politics because I wanted to champion my community, its causes, its ideas, its people. It's people. It's people. That was me as the editor of the Wagga Advertiser from the age of 27. That was me as the small business owner whose publishing business helped a Wagga Wagga printing firm with which we did business, move to a new building, buy a new 4-coloured press and put more people on just to keep up with our work. That was for me for decades and still me today. Because more important than your character count online is how you count your character in politics. I want you to know that. More importantly, it's who you fight for, because the people and the issues you fight for in Parliament speak volumes about your values. If you turn your back on the industry which put food on your family's table for 8 years, my own days in small business, then you're in Parliament for the wrong reason. Equally, if you don't use your opportunities to make it easier for those who follow, then you're also in Parliament for the wrong reason. I'm in Parliament for a very simple reason. People I meet each and every day. Our regional people, our farmers, our people in small business, our people who are doing it tough, our resilient people. They are the people of my community. I'm proud of them and I want them to know that I'm doing the very best for them. But more than that, as the Small Business Minister, it's all people in small business who I now champion. And certainly in the Federal Parliament, I do everything I can to make sure their voices are heard. They're the ones who've given me the privilege to stand in the Parliament as a local member, as a minister, and be their voice. And they are the people to whom I'll always be responsible and for whom I'll always fight. This is not some practiced political line. It's something I've thought about for a long time, starting when I was a journalist and then editor of my hometown's newspaper for over 21 years. There is something different being a community advocate in the community, in the country. Because our towns are smaller, more people know who you are. You can't even go to the supermarket on a Sunday morning and sneak in and just buy milk and bread. You get tackled by somebody who wants a pothole fixed, somebody who wants their voice listened to. You work with people in a number of settings. It might be at the newspaper, the canteen at the footy club, as the volunteer coach at the local cricket side, or the local school P&F. When you're a community leader, to them you're always accountable. So this is something I think about each and every day, each and every night as a parliamentarian. Mine is not an electorate that votes for a brand or is swayed by what one big party says about the other in the city. Ours are campaigns by locals, for locals, about locals, by locals. So there are times when the challenge of being a parliamentarian is broader than just the party line. That's why I probably spoke up about Prince Philip. And for me this was so in my first term. My Riverina electorate then encompassed the large Murrumbidgee irrigation area. No doubt you've heard of it. If you haven't heard of it, you've no doubt eaten their food. And what the many communities, the sole being of which is centred on water in the MIA. And the Parliament had to consider the Murray-Darling Basin Plan. This was a plan which caused angst in my communities, whether you're a farmer or whether you weren't. Water is that region's lifeblood, and city-centric politicking sought to see these proud communities become a shadow of their former selves. So, this at a time when we were tested, our community was at its best. We stood up, we defended our region, and we told the story of the region, of our production, of our people, and more importantly, of our potential. The original guide to the draft of the plan would have been a death knell for many of the small businesses in those river communities. Its social and economic impact would have been vast, and the challenges which faced our community under the proposed water cuts would have been immense. So when the bill eventually came before the Parliament, I knew I had to be their champion, their voice. Being my community's champion meant crossing the floor against my own colleagues and moving a motion which would have disallowed the Murray-Darling Basin Plan. Believe me, there were people in Parliament who warned me not to do that. There were those seeking to move the motion before me from seats thousands of kilometres away and playing politics with my people. But for me, my job was clear. No matter the politics, it would be me, and only me, who would walk down Banner Avenue in Griffith that next week and have to look my constituents in the eye. So I moved the motion of disallowance, and as a result, the Liberals and Nationals committed to cap water buyback at 1,500 gigalitres if we were elected. That was legislation we delivered a little more than 2 years ago, and confidence in these communities is now high. With good seasons and the hope of even more rainfall, small businesses there continue to hire more Australians, especially at harvest time, and they continue to be big contributors to Australia's tremendous growth in export. That's a story about my values as a parliamentarian, my values as a person, and these are now the values I bring to being your Minister for Small Business. I'm the first small business minister to call rural and regional Australia home. I'm the first from the National Party, and that's why I do spend as much time as I can listening. I mentioned it a bit before, but for me, I knew the best ideas weren't in the bureaucracy or the bubble, or indeed the boarding school that some people call Parliament House. They are in barbershops, in bakeries, in family-owned bus lines, in the bush and in the burbs, in equal measure, and so I wanted to get out there and listen. I've been to a few capital cities too, just quietly, in fact each and every one of them. I've travelled to every state and every territory since I became the Small Business Minister, and to date I've held more than 60 forums in cities and towns and villages across this great nation. Because I remember what it's like to run your own small business, the hours, the hard work and the paperwork, and I also know that any bit of extra relief, whether that's through taxes or red tape cuts, helps you pursue that goal. And that's why I take your feedback seriously. Thanks to the feedback I received from small businesses around Australia, the popular, and it is very popular, instant asset write-off, up to $20,000, was made available to thousands more small businesses, and for another 12 months. Because to back small business with tangible help is how we can help our economy grow. Because to back small business helps Australia's wages and jobs grow. And to back small business is to back a brighter future for our country. The feedback I hear means something to me, means a lot to me. To spend time with a local small business owner in their operation, over the farm gate or round the kitchen table or shop counter is a real joy. It truly is. And I've met some incredible, remarkable Australians. And let me share a couple. The first is Alana and Peter Laliotitis. They own Casino Greco, a bustling Greek cafe and family restaurant in the heart of Parramatta, and if you haven't been there, do yourself a favour and go there. Alana and Peter have been serving their signature lamb dish for about 16 years. Theirs is a cafe whose busiest day of the year, Mother's Day, is a must-eat on many families' plans. But in order to make the days of mums from across Western Sydney, they needed new equipment to increase productivity and to make meal production more efficient. So they decided to use their instant asset write-off to purchase a new oven and grill to upgrade their kitchen. Alana told me it helped immensely. It was necessary for us to produce good food, for staff morale, and actually it had a chain reaction. And those words, a chain reaction, struck a chord with me. It's a terrific story of a small business supporting other local small businesses. It's a fantastic story, just like those I'm sure you all know, we all know, and which keeps Australians, many Australians, in a job doing what they do best. Alana purchased equipment for her kitchen upgrade from local suppliers and had a local tradie to do the installation. That multiplier effect is what I relied upon when I ran my own small business. It's local people, knowing local people, and recommending them to other locals to get a job done locally. It keeps money flowing around those communities and is a much needed injection of confidence in many places which need it. Another story is that of Kate Marland from Bundaberg. A few weeks before I went to Bundy, she had taken over the family jewellery store. from appearance and sought to expand it into some new and changing markets. They make a lot of the stock themselves and use the instant asset write-off to purchase new printers and computers to make Kate's dream a reality. Kate also wanted to use the $20,000 instant write-off to purchase a new drill so her dad could more efficiently make the product she sells. And her dad was probably looking forward to retirement, but Dad, because she bought the new drill, now is making handmade jewellery, and it's a boom for her business, and it's great, and he's delighted, and so Dad continues, Kate's excited, and the whole thing is going gangbusters. It's just like the many stories of so many family enterprises which have served this nation over generations, and it's exactly what inspires me to keep working on their behalf. But I know there's a lot more work to do. I remember another thing that adds up, that takes far too much of small business's time, is red tape. I've seen the nods, red tape, and that's why the government has already slashed $5.8 billion in red tape, with incentives for further cuts on the table. One small business owner I had the pleasure of meeting was Andrew Kay. Now he owns the Nomadic Cafe in Berwick, Victoria. Andrew understands the big picture, he gets it. He pointed to the stresses faced by many small business owners, particularly those in the hospitality game. There are fridges to regas, electricity bills to pay, and hidden costs in the form of red tape. That's what he told me. Andrew is a genuine contributor to his community, in particular the local country fire authority. And he said the cost of running a small business would be easier with a tax cut and simpler paperwork. That's something I hear echoed around the country. But so often the bugbears I hear is not paperwork that I can control, and that's why the Liberal and Nationals in this budget provided up to $300 billion to states and territories to remove unnecessary regulatory barriers. So to give you a practical example, this might mean we reward a state government for reducing land use planning restrictions, making it easier for businesses to fit out their shops. This initiative, of course, dovetails nicely in with other previously announced measures to cut red tape, to reduce the bureaucracy, including the simpler business activity statement which started on 1 July. It will also complement the rolling out of the single-touch payroll to make it simpler for small business. In tackling red tape, we plan to take the pressure off small businesses, the local job creators, so they can get on with running and growing their businesses. Each of these are runs on the board for small business. Each of these are practical measures of support from a government which gets small business, which cares about small business, which understands small business. And each of these is the result of the values we have and I have as the Minister. Small business is Australia's economic success story. Our jobs are growing, there are more small businesses, and the future of the sector is bright in this country. And although there are challenges which others would have beset small businesses, you are the people for whom this government and I will fight for every single day. You are the ones who create the jobs. You are the ones who give people a start, hope, reward. You are the ones who keep our economy strong. So my message and the dividend of our delivery in the past year is particular. It's very simple for small business. If you're thinking about it, go for it. If you want to hire someone, go for it. If you want to diversify or expand, do it. Go for it. We are the government for small business, made up of people who get small business, and we want to back you every step of the way and each and every day. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Warrior. So many thanks to the Minister. So before we get to questions to Michael McCormack, I should say Anne's got a microphone.